I'm making a roguelike action RPG for PC set in the Wild West that's heavily inspired by the Legend of Zelda games and roguelike games like Moonlighter and Enter the Gungeon. And in the last 100 days, I have made something that was just essentially basic shapes and taken it to somewhere where it kind of actually looks like a game. So today I'm going to talk a little about what this game is and where I'm at in the process of making it. First of all, when I started this game, I wanted to make a game that embodied all of the things I love about Legend of Zelda games, but I wanted to add a twist, something that would make the game different and unique. So imagine, if you will, a Legend of Zelda game, but all of the dungeons are randomized and feel more like a roguelike, with random buffs and items you get while playing them. You would have all the same aspects of a Legend of Zelda game, like collecting new permanent item upgrades that help you get to new places in the game. You'd kill bosses that each have mechanics you would have to prepare for and likely use the items that you've collected in the game, and you would ultimately follow the story of your character becoming the hero. The difference is that each dungeon run would feel different and you were never guaranteed success. Very similar to most roguelike games. Now the story. The story of this game follows you, the hero, as you've been called back to your hometown after the American Civil War. There are strange things happening in your town, people are seeing dark shadows and dark figures, and at the same time, a gang has taken up residence and is making life a living hell for the townsfolk. So it's up to you to go in and save them. Okay, so let's get into it. The very first thing I started working on was the player. At first, I just had this very basic cylinder with a block sticking out of it because I wanted to be able to see the direction that the player was facing. And then I also gave him the ability to shoot little projectile balls so that I could get the gun mechanics to start to work. I did this because I wanted to establish what the player sees and how they interact with the world. Next, I did the boring stuff first. So I did the menu system, specifically the start menu system with like the settings and the keybinds and the graphic settings and stuff. I did that first because I wanted to be able to have a solid foundation for the game to sit on so that I have like a robust save system, that graphic settings aren't going to mess with any of the game or anything. Also, I used a new system in Unreal Engine, new-ish, for swapping keybinds. So essentially, the game out of the box comes with the functionality of being able to be played with a gamepad or a keyboard, which is cool. Once I had the menu finished, it was time to establish what this game is actually going to look and feel like, and what better place to do that than the start menu. This game is also heavily inspired by my hometown, which has a very memorable mountain range, so I started with mountains first. First, I started using pictures of the mountain range to model it. That didn't look good. And then I used actual NASA satellite data to reconstruct the topology of the mountains. That also didn't look good. So instead, I just went back and used Unreal Engine's built-in landscape tool and kind of sculpted the mountain into the shape that I wanted. Although it doesn't look as crazy detailed as the other two, it does what I wanted to. It fits the aesthetic of the game. Next, I worked on the environment, which is all the trees, the grass, the rocks, etc. Everything that you need to have a world and feel like you can live in it. Then I added a dynamic weather system to the game. I want the world in this game to feel alive. So it should rain, it should snow, it should get windy, it should do all of those fun things that kind of also affect your character. For instance, if you shoot a black powder weapon while it's raining or snowing, there is a chance that your weapon won't fire. I want the world to feel alive, so having the ability to add weather and like rain and snow effects is super important to me for this game. And after that, what resulted is a start menu that doesn't look like a game from the discount bin of a shady GameKey website. Or it does. I don't know. It might still. I'm not done with this yet. There's still a lot of stuff I want to add to it and to change the visual look for, but it's good enough where it is now, and I'll come back to it later. Now, if you're seeing this as a game developer, you're probably thinking, dude doesn't even have gameplay for his game yet, and he's just working on the art for it. Is this his first game? Does he even know what he's doing? And to that, I say yes. So I am purposefully working on a lot of the pretty things in tandem with all of the code for the game, and I'm doing this on purpose because making games is hard. And people like shiny, pretty things. And so I have to model and make things shiny and pretty while I'm making the game, while also doing the code in order to try to get people interested in it. It's the sad reality of being a game developer in 2024. Plus, if I just sat on the code the entire time, I would probably actually go crazy. I'm someone who needs to like be able to switch it up. I'm not primarily a programmer. I'm not primarily an artist. I am like somewhere in between with my skill set, and so being able to switch back and forth helps me from going insane. After I finished the start menu, I went back and focused on the player. I added Z targeting, dodging, strafing, movement, obviously, shooting mechanics, weapon swapping, melee combat, just pretty much everything that the player needs. And while it's not done, it's in a pretty good place, and I can leave it for now as well. From here, it was time to make the character. Up until this point, the character had been this like T-posing, orb shooting ghost, and I really needed to change him up and create something that fits the aesthetic I'm going for, which is kind of like a Link's Awakening look. I tried multiple different ways of modeling this character. Some I liked, some I didn't, and ultimately, this is the character that I landed on. He's a happy little guy. I also modeled and textured all of the main weapons in the game. The ones you're seeing now are the basic versions, the non-upgraded versions, and they'll get slightly cooler textured and effects and stuff as you play the game. Obviously, after having a character, I needed to animate the character, so I spent a lot of time in Unreal Engine 5 learning Control Rig, which is like a system designed to help animate characters in a game. Normally you would do this in a program like Blender or Maya, but with the addition of Control Rig to Unreal Engine 5, it seemed like a natural way for me to quickly add animations to the game, which I did. I have like 34 now, I think, total animations in the game, which is great. And now what we're left with is a character that exists in a currently mostly empty world, but that's okay. We're getting there. It'll just take time. The next big part of the game I'm working on is the enemy AI, the procedural dungeon system, and the roguelike system that will sit in all of those dungeons. I won't be making all of the enemy AI right off the bat, but I'll make a few different variations to test the combat on and to make sure that it feels fun. Now you're probably thinking at this point, other than making randomized dungeons, what is to differentiate this game from like any other Legend of Zelda copycat? And the answer is, I do have a lot of stuff planned for this game that is just outside of the norm of a Legend of Zelda game, so my hopes is that I can incorporate these things and it still feel very familiar. First, I really liked the Sonic the Hedgehog games growing up. One of my favorite mechanics from those games is when you take damage and Sonic loses a bunch of his rings and you have to try to collect them as fast as possible, and most of the time you don't get all of them back. I'm going to be adding a very similar system to this game to where when you take damage, you lose your health and it's up to you to get it back before it disappears, and I think in a roguelike shooter type game, this will lead to some chaotic and fun moments. Next, I'm working on a system for the dungeon that will have you literally be gambling your life away, and it will all depend on how well you can play poker. It'll either make your dungeon runs easier or harder depending on your skills. At this point, everything I'm working on is to make what is commonly known in the game dev world as a vertical slice. A vertical slice is kind of what it sounds like. It's a demo of the game that's fully playable and gives you a good vision for what the game will fully entail. In it, there'll be some story, some fleshed out gameplay, and a dungeon that you can fully play and beat, which I'm doing specifically because I want to be able to create an exciting and interesting gameplay trailer that I can throw up on Steam. And lastly, you may be wondering, this took you 100 days? There are devs that do this in a day. What took you so long? I would say, first of all, calm down. I understand. I may not be going as fast as others, but I am also a full-time worker in the games industry, and I have a family to take care of. So what you're seeing here is the culmination of my nights and weekends. We're getting there. It's just going to take a little time. Thanks for joining me on the last 100 days of progress. In future videos, I'll talk about the enemy AI that's going into the game, the procedural generation and the dungeon system and how it's going to work, and all of like the fun activities that I have planned for the open world of the game. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. This is my first video about the game, so I hope it reaches at least 1 or 2 people who are interested in these kind of games. And yeah, until next time, thanks for watching.